Yo, a new 51-page bombshell report was just dropped that shows us some data that could prove that this bull run could be different. This report also shows that Bitcoin is at the same stage that the internet was at in 1990 and social media in 2005. But despite the report showing it's early with global adoption levels at 3%, it also uncovered some interesting data that could suggest why your chance to buy Bitcoin under 100K could be disappearing forever. Businesses are buying 1,000 Bitcoin per day. 52% of the world's top 25 hedge funds own Bitcoin. But before we talk about the billionaire FOMO, let's dive straight into the section of the report where we're going to be talking about the Bitcoin cycle. So, who's this report from? The report is done by River Financial. And of course, I'm going to bring up my legendary co-host and also my best friend, Optimus Fields, in the house today. Here we go. Jumping straight into the report. This bull market is different. Now, what's really interesting too is that on top of the report, River wrote a report, of course, but also Pierre Richard. And Pierre Richard wrote an amazing post on X, and it was something very similar. This bull cycle is different. So let's get into all the details because this report is jam-packed. Let's do it. Here we go. So this section is called number 2. This bull market is different. And it compares Bitcoin's bull market, something that we've been doing actually for the last couple of weeks here at Simply Bitcoin. We've been using different data, and it's comparing the different bull markets. So, of course, the cycle of 2015 to 2017, an 11,000% performance over 1,068 days. The 2018 to 2021 bull market, a 2,000% performance over 1,060 days. And then 2022 to present, right? 2025 apparently is the last year of the current cycle. If history repeats itself, a 566% performance over 800 days. But again, this cycle is not over, as this graphic clearly, shows and represents. I still believe, I come from the school of thought that I think the end of this year is going to be explosive. I think we're going to have a great year. And it compares the different cycles. So current bull market, not driven by global money supply yet. As of now, the Fed has not started quantitative easing yet. They haven't started a money printer go burr as of yet. But of course, that could change. There are plans, supposedly, from the research I've been doing, that's going to change by mid of this year, right? And it could be explosive. So anyway, it compares the different dynamics of the market cycles. 2015 to 2017, there is an increase of 19.3% in the global M2 money supply. From 2018 to 2021 bull market, there was a 33% increase in M2 money supply. Now, what's really interesting, again, check out the correlation. Isn't it interesting, right? You see the 2017 bull market peak, look at the money supply, right? Very, very interesting. Same thing in 2018, 2021. Look at the bull market peak. Again, very, very similar to where the money supply peaked. But take a look at the current cycle, right? The money printer hasn't gone burr yet, right? And again, supposedly this is going to change by March of this year. That's supposedly where people are anticipating that the Fed is going to kind of change stances. Inflation was running hot. So a dramatic shift in Bitcoin accumulation occurred in 2024. Previous cycles were driven by individuals, but ETFs and businesses were the primary Bitcoin accumulators in 2024. Bitcoin ETFs had record-breaking launches, adding 519,000 BTC in 2024. Businesses added 374,000 BTC in 2024, 31% more than in 2020. Part number 3 of the report, institutions are driving Bitcoin's price. It goes on to say U.S. spot Bitcoin ETFs reached $100 billion, driving 2024 price action. As you could see, the Bitcoin price and the amount of Bitcoin held by the spot ETFs. Again, there's a correlation there, right? There's a correlation. There's definitely a correlation in that chart. So Bitcoin's growing up. Bitcoin is growing up 100%. It's gone into the era of Wall Street. It's gone into the era of hedge funds, institutional investors, governments. But the question I think remains is Bitcoin becoming boring? Is Bitcoin just becoming like a well-performing stock? I mean, we shall see. We'll definitely find out by the end of the year, that's for sure. So 52% of the top 25 hedge funds and RIAs own Bitcoin ETFs, so the majority. Hedge funds and registered investment advisors collectively manage over 135 trillion in the US alone. While total exposure exceeds 30 billion, allocation sizes remain relatively small. However, they have increased each quarter since the launch of the ETFs. So, it compares the two. Take a look at Q4. Like, hedge funds went bananas. And again, you have to understand, hedge funds have long-term thinking, right? They're not degen. They're not degen traders. They're not, no. They're thinking long-term, right? So when you see them accumulating like this, they're not just doing this out of, okay, like, let's buy some and then we'll sell it next quarter. No, they're thinking long-term. They're thinking as Bitcoin as a long-term investment. And the fact that the majority of the top 25 hedge funds are looking Bitcoin as a good long-term investment, I mean, should tell you everything you need to know. So even though we dropped from 100,000, 108,000 to 86,000, I mean, if you're selling your Bitcoin right now, make no mistake, you are more than likely selling it to institutions. That's the reality. So Bitcoin ETF ownership distribution, hedge funds, asset managers, sovereign wealth funds, non-institutional investors, RIAs, and it keeps going. Business Bitcoin adoption is accelerating. So take a look at this. Businesses have accumulated over 1,000 Bitcoin per day since January of 2024. Aggregate business Bitcoin holdings. So it talks about strategy, of course, MicroStrategy, miners, other public companies, private companies. Public companies holding Bitcoin grew by 80% in 2024. Do you think that's going to slow down? Probably not. The rise of Bitcoin Standard Company. An increasing number of companies are using Bitcoin as their primary treasury asset, the main vehicle for holding retained earnings rather than distributing earnings through dividends and share buybacks, right? Lightning Network continues to grow. Of course, you guys all know that. And Bitcoin custody is maturing. Third-party custodies are evolving. You guys know how we feel about that. The dramatic shift in nation-state adoption, all the regulatory changes, of course, they've been positive. This is quite interesting. Global Bitcoin adoption is at 3%. We all talk about the famous S-curve here in Bitcoin, right? And it seems like River Financial agrees with Simply Bitcoin, which is we're still in the early kind of adopter phase. This is super fascinating for anyone who thinks they're late to Bitcoin. Bitcoin's, 86,000. I've missed the boat. I've missed the train. Let's take a look at this. Bitcoin adoption in 2025 is at roughly 3% of its full potential. The term adoption encompasses more than just Bitcoin's price or ownership levels. It reflects a combination of factors. This 3% estimate is derived from a blend of key metrics, which are examined in this section. Total addressable market. Bitcoin's market value remains below 1% of its total addressable market. Institutional underallocation. US-based investment advisors collectively allocate just 0.006% of their portfolios to Bitcoin. Global ownership, while 14% of Americans own some Bitcoin, global ownership remains under 4%. And they equate it to Bitcoin in 2025 is like online banking in 1996, social media in 2005, and the internet in 1990, right? So I was around for the social media in 2005. I remember when MySpace, but it was just kind of like, it was like fun, like everyone still thought it was a good idea to put all their pictures online, and it was like a different era. I'm old enough to remember that. So the next part, which I think is really interesting. Bitcoin is at less than 1% of its total addressable market. Bitcoin accounts for 0.2% of total global wealth. Bitcoin's total addressable market is 225 trillion, assuming a 50% market share of store of value assets. So, and it's comparing, equities, gold, art. I mean, just reaching gold. I think that's like an 8x, right? That'd be wonderful. But that's more than 100x essentially. I think the only question is how long is it going to take? Next step, institutions are significantly underinvested in Bitcoin. U.S. investment advisors currently have a net Bitcoin allocation of just 0.006%. How 128 trillion of U.S. investment advisor money is allocated. And as you could see, Bitcoin is this tiny little speck right here, right? So yeah, I do agree with the River Financial guys. I do believe that we're still in the early innings of Bitcoin adoption. So yeah, I would take advantage of the dip. Now I'm going to end it with this, which is going to be, I'm not going to end it, but I'm going to pass it on to Opti. It's this post by Pierre Richard. Love Pierre Richard. We recently had him on Simply Bitcoin IRL. Great Bitcoiner, has been around for a long time, super smart. And I love his analysis and his insights. So he says, the new Bitcoin bull market. This Bitcoin bull market is different from previous cycles. Historically, halvings dramatically reduced Bitcoin's new supply, sparked parabolic price increases. However, with each halving, the relative reduction in freshly minted Bitcoin decreases, making this fourth halving a smaller shock to the market. As a result, we're seeing a more gradual price growth that aligns with underlying demand, rather than the sharp run-ups and crashes of the past. We're looking at a longer, more tempered cycle. Such an environment will better reflect organic adoption as institutional and retail buyers adopt Bitcoin on balance sheet. President Trump's historic return to the White House is ushering in a new regulatory era for Bitcoin, reversing the strict capital controls and compliance burdens previously placed on banks. By removing those limitations, the current administration is willing to let Bitcoin grow organically within an open financial framework. This accommodating backdrop is fostering confidence among institutional investors who rely on regulatory clarity before deploying large amounts of capital. Traditional capital markets have made significant strides in embracing Bitcoin. From ETFs that wrap Bitcoin exposure into a digestible format to large companies like MicroStrategy that hold substantial reserves in BTC with intelligent leverage. The financial industry is recognizing Bitcoin's potential as an alternative asset. Hedge funds see opportunities to profit from price swings through options and futures, while financial advisors increasingly consider it a viable component of a diversified portfolio. These developments bring liquidity and credibility to the Bitcoin market, supporting a healthier price floor than in past cycles. Still, risks remain. Over-leveraged traders will continue to spark sudden liquidations, while macroeconomic events and pauses in demand inevitably cause periods of sideways actions and corrections within the bull run. A relatively tight monetary environment, which is what I was talking about in the beginning, for USD continues to be a headwind for Bitcoin as well. Prudent risk management and patience are in order. Even with these shifts in market forces, Bitcoin's core attributes, a permissionless transaction technology and a verifiably scarce savings vehicle, remain intact. The dual role of Bitcoin as both payment system and long-term store of value continues to underpin its appeal to individuals, capital markets, and governments around the world. The long-term strategy for Bitcoin remains ongoing accumulation. So I think this is an incredible analysis by Pierre Richard, and it reminds me of something that I saw in the River Report, which I think is worthwhile to mention, which is this cycle is a little bit different in terms of U.S. monetary policy right now. All the other previous cycles had giant money printer go burr. And as you can see, this cycle, that's not the case at all. Inflation is still running a little bit hot. The inflation numbers came in. It was like roughly at 3%, higher than what they want it to be, which is 2%. So great reports by River and a great X post by Pierre Richard. And I do agree. I think that this bull market is different. However, I will say that when money printer goes burr again, and I will say that I am still extremely optimistic and bullish by the end of this year. I think we're gonna be pleasantly surprised. I do agree with American HODL that this cycle reminds me a lot of 2017. This gives me 2017 vibes. And but we still do have to remember Bitcoin's growing up. It's not a teenager anymore. Wall Street is here. Large institutions are here. It wouldn't be good for BlackRock if Bitcoin dropped 80%, right? So, are we going to get those drops into the future? No, I still think we'll have like 50% corrections and 40% corrections. I mean, right now we're in a 20% correction, which is a lot, right? 20% discount, depending on how you look at it. But yeah, I mean, I think Bitcoin's still kicking ass like always. And, we're just in the very beginnings of this. I just think that the key theme and key message to get from all of this, which is very good news for me and Opti, because we'll be here to talk to you about all this. We'll be your hodling entertainment through your Bitcoin journey. I think patience is the key word, right? Patience. Focus on growing your income so you could put more of your money into Bitcoin. And, the future looks incredibly bright. The total addressable market, I mean, that's 100x. So whatever your net worth is in Bitcoin right now, multiply that by 100, and that's where it could be at, right? And that's River Financial saying that. Also, shout out to the Rumble audience today. It seems like Rumble is popping off. We're almost at 200 live viewers on Rumble. So shout out to all you guys. Of course, on YouTube, we're at 525, and on X, we're at 773. So if you guys are enjoying Simply Bitcoin Live so far, smash that like button. We're only at 80 likes on YouTube, guys. Help us break 100 likes within the first 30 minutes of the show. Smash that like button. Smash that like button. Let me ask you guys something. If you believe that this bull market is different, drop a 1 in the chat. If you believe that this bull market is the same like the rest, we're just getting the party started, drop a 2 in the chat. Let us know your guys' thoughts. I'm also going to be dropping a poll in the chat very momentarily. Anyways, Opti, what are your thoughts, my brother?
Well, first of all, I really like that Pierre Richard tweet. It's something we've been kind of saying for a long time on the show, or rather the last couple of months on the show, is it does feel like something is fundamentally changing in the market. And I guess we could all attribute it to the fact that Bitcoin is maturing. We have institutions coming into Bitcoin. We're seeing Bitcoin being talked about it constantly on corporate press. And it's not being driven by retail. And we all know that past cycles have essentially been driven by retail. Now, there was a lot of good stuff in this report. I completely, parsed through the whole report to give you guys some more insights on what's going on. And kind of Pierre Richard really hit the nail on the head. A lot of this stuff is the fundamentals of Bitcoin are increasing. They're growing. Obviously, for people in the chat, the stuff you guys usually talk about and kind of, throw insults at me about is not talking about the fundamentals. Well, part of it was node counts going up, hash rate is going up, hash rate is being distributed globally. Now, one of the big things that I noticed from this report is that, one, individuals still hold the bulk of the Bitcoin, but there was a chart there, Nico, where we were showing that individuals have been selling a lot of Bitcoin. I think the number was roughly around 525,000 Bitcoin have released the hands of individuals, and obviously is going into institutional companies, whether it's the ETF or whether it's private company balance sheets. But the bulk of Bitcoin around 55% of all the Bitcoin in circulation is being held by individuals. So I think it's a very healthy distribution of the Bitcoin. Obviously, seeing Lightning Network grow is great. I think we've been hearing a lot of FUD around Bitcoin the last couple of weeks, in the sense that people are saying, oh, Lightning isn't being adopted and Lightning is a failure. I think we've been hearing that for years. And in reality, Lightning's the only real layer 2 that there is. It's not all these other blockchains, it's Lightning. And of course, that's being driven by a lot of the Bitcoin exchange implementing Lightning. So that's awesome to see. And the last thing that I want to say and really hit on is this idea of the global Bitcoin adoption. It's still, at least from this River report, roughly around 3%. And of course, you love the analogies or the parallels of online banking in 1996, social media in 2005, and the internet in 1990. And I know a lot of us kind of get this feeling, especially because we're in these echo chambers, that Bitcoin is already fully adopted. We've been always playing that one S-curve adoption where, like, are we early adopters? You know, are we the beginning of the mainstream? And I think if you kind of look at just the global numbers, we can still safely say we are in early adoption phase. 3% of global adoption is nothing. And I always say it from a very simple vibes check, that if you go out and you talk to people about Bitcoin, not just Bitcoiners, but normies, most people have heard about Bitcoin, but they most likely haven't touched Bitcoin, saved in Bitcoin. And even when you look at that report, it says roughly around 14% of American population had some Bitcoin or Bitcoin exposure. That's still super, super minimal in the grand scheme of things. It's like hardly anyone is actually holding Bitcoin, and we've gotten up to 100K, which is absolutely nuts. And part of that global adoption number that blows my mind is essentially these institutions, even though there is a lot of companies that are kind of getting Bitcoin exposure or they're looking at Bitcoin, their allocation size is tiny. And in this report, it says 0.006%. And if you compare that with the size of Bitcoin compared to all the global markets, roughly Bitcoin is like 0.2% of total assets in the world. And so if those institutions do start to allocate Bitcoin at that number or parallel or the same as that 0.2%, I'm pretty sure the chart or that report said it'd be a 36x increase of exposure to Bitcoin. So I know a lot of people on Twitter or even in the chat, we do get very impatient. We're wondering, like, how come the Bitcoin price isn't pumping? With all this news coming out, why isn't the Bitcoin price going up like we think it is? Well, I think that solves that answer, is that the allocation size from these institutions, nation states, and even individuals globally is usually a small portion of their assets. And until everyone kind of does the education and kind of gone through these cycles and understood what Bitcoin actually is, there's still a lot of room to run. But I think that time is running out. We're starting to see that people are starting to look at Bitcoin as very seriously. And so the expectation here is Bitcoin adoption will accelerate in 2025. And if you aren't having a solid position in Bitcoin, then 2025 might be the year where we're never going to see these prices again. It's going to be incredibly hard to get or become a whole coiner. And so right now would definitely not be the time to take your foot off the gas. We're starting to see that the interest in Bitcoin is picking up. And I'm just like, man, it's definitely early. Everything is early in Bitcoin. I know it's cliche at this point to say it's early in Bitcoin, but if you look at the hard data or the best data we can, I think it goes to show that we still are early in Bitcoin. Even though we're at 100K, you haven't missed Bitcoin. You haven't missed the next rush of Bitcoin, but it does feel like Bitcoin is starting to kind of go into a different cycle pattern where we might just be seeing, these gradual increases, some consolidation, and it seems more like a stepwise function here, but we won't really know until the end of this year. But I really do love this report. It really goes to show a lot of the things we've been saying, mainly on like a vibe check here. We're just, reading all the data, getting the vibe check, and River gives us the hard data, and it's like, yes, okay, so we aren't tripping here. We aren't just reading and being delusional on our takes of Bitcoin. Things are different here. But I don't think that's to say that we aren't going to see an incredible leg up at the end of 2025. If this Bitcoin cycle plays out like old cycles, that means we're essentially going to have 200 days of pumping. Like, I don't know. How could you be bearish in regards to the Bitcoin price when we're getting this slow, gradual adoption? And as I've said on the show a lot of times, that slow, gradual adoption means that the freedom go up aspects of Bitcoin take over, because there is no huge jump in Bitcoin price. And then with that, the negative reaction around Bitcoin, all the calls for inequality, etc. It's like a slow, gradual grind in Bitcoin, I think, is beautiful. And it just goes to show that we really are starting to kind of snap down to reality, and we're not going to get these crazy pumps, which is kind of a negative, but it means we are starting to see a closer reaction of the Bitcoin price to the actual adoption of individuals and institutions and nation states. So I think this is what I've been saying for a while. This consolidation period we've seen around 100K is very healthy for the market. And I saw actually another data, I don't have it on the chart here, but I forget who it was, but someone was saying that the sell-off we saw yesterday, or this 80K sell-off, 85K sell-off, was greater than the sell-off we got in 2021 after the China ban, and Bitcoin stayed at roughly 90K. So I don't know what you're seeing, but to me, this is showing that the market is very healthy, it's very resilient, and it's only a matter of time until it explodes, in my mind.
100%. I think, yeah, I agree with you. I think we're definitely going to have an explosive end of 2025. I do believe that from where it stands right now, Bitcoin is definitely underperforming the previous cycles. Now, is that because of the U.S. monetary policy? Is that because Bitcoin is maturing as an asset? And again, it's more institutionally driven. I don't know, but we'll definitely find out by the end of 2025. I definitely think that, Bitcoin is obviously still the best savings technology the world has ever seen. I think Bitcoin is still going to give you the best returns compared to any traditional assets, specifically in the stock market. I think Saylor was predicting between 60% to 30% CAGR, year over year. So where else are you going to find that, right? You're not going to find that anywhere else, right? So anyways, very exciting stuff, guys. We have a loaded show for you guys today. We have the state of Florida. We have a governor who, by the name of Brian Donalds, and he's talking about essentially looking at Bitcoin and making South Florida the home of digital assets. That sounds great. And we're also going to have an update for you guys in regards to the strategic Bitcoin reserves initiatives that are happening on a state level. Almost every state has a strategic Bitcoin initiative at this point. Very interesting. Shout out to Dennis Porter for really moving that initiative forward. What I will say is that some have already got shut down, which I think was expected. So we're going to have an update on strategic Bitcoin adoption on state levels. This is where you guys can take action and agency. I know that the majority of our audience is in the United States. So if you see your state on this list, you can get involved. You can call your representative and say, "Hey, representative, pump my bags." I'm just kidding. It'd be good for the state to adopt Bitcoin. It would be positive for the state to adopt Bitcoin. Who knows? If they adopt Bitcoin, maybe they get rid of some of the burdensome taxes. And on the news front, some very positive news. It seems like some Democrats are starting to leave the Elizabeth Warren camp. They don't like what she's doing in regards to her Bitcoin policy, her crypto policy. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the Democrats lost this previous election. And I've said this many times. I said this during my interview with Senator Lummis. You can make a very strong argument that the anti-Bitcoin stance that the Democrats had in the previous election, that they tried to walk back at the end, really hurt them. And the reason it really hurt them is, what is the largest demographic of Bitcoin holders? It's the younger generations, right? So, and what is the biggest Democrat voting demographic? It's the younger generation, right? So, that wasn't good. But I think that some of them, which we predicted, by the way, on Simply Bitcoin, some of them are looking and saying, "Hey, Elizabeth Warren, come on now, relax. You got to chill, because you're costing us elections." and they're taking a different stance, which is really positive because now we have essentially a bipartisan type of coalition behind pro-Bitcoin politicians, which is extremely positive. And also in the River Report, it mentions this, so we'll share that with you guys as well. Anyways, guys, we'll be right back. We're going to hit the numbers segment. Like I said, we have a slam show for you guys. And of course, Opti, what are we going to talk about during the culture segment, my friend?
Well, a very similar story as we're going to cover in the news. We're seeing a general vibe shift come out of corporate press, and Jeff Bezos dropped, I would say, a very interesting tweet in regards to what the Washington Post is going to do. So it seems like it's not just the politicians on the left that are kind of capitulating. We're seeing that the corporate press is also reading the writing on the wall, and Bezos have been saying this for a long time. And then, of course, the reaction by some Bitcoiners, because it's not just me talking about information here. He literally is pretty much touching on Bitcoin topics. So it's, I think, Nico, as much as it feels like we're not winning, it seems like we are seeing a general vibe shift towards a lot of the things that Bitcoiners have been saying. You know, I'm still a little skeptical on it, but it's an interesting read.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you see Michael Saylor's response to it?
Yeah, I got it. I got all that.
Yeah, so it is. I think we are definitely feeling a vibe shift. Saylor speaking at CPAC. I think the general consensus is people want less government. People want more freedoms. And of course, like the system, the establishment is trying to fight that, trying to slow that down. I don't think they'll be successful. Anyways, guys, we almost have 2,000 live viewers on all platforms. Shout out to the Rumble audience today. It's popping off. 255 live viewers on Rumble, almost 700 live viewers on YouTube, and 1,095 live viewers on X. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button. Smash the like button. Really, really helps with the algos. And let us know what you guys think. If you guys think that there's a general vibe shift towards freedom worldwide, the so-called Great Awakening, drop a 1 in the chat.
And then drop a 2 if you think it's manufactured.
Yeah. There we go. All right. Thank you, Opti. Front running me a little bit. All right, everybody. We'll be right back. We're going to hit the numbers. We have tons to talk about on today's show, so stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Stampseed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed words really secure? Stampseed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of writing them down on paper. Don't do that. Paper sucks. You want to literally stamp your seed into this plate of titanium. Your words are actually stamped into the metal plate with this hammer. So once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and your pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and most importantly, because this is generational wealth, time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin for the long haul. I mean, here is the plate that they crushed. They put in water, they put a blowtorch to it, and as you can see, the words have survived. Stamp your seed on Stampseed. And you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their store. Head over to stampseed.com today.
All right, everybody, we are back. By the way, guys, you could scan the QR code on your screen. It will take you directly to the Stampseed website. Stamp your seed on titanium. Use promo code SIMPLY. You get 15% off anything on their website. Promo code SIMPLY, stampseed.com. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $85,980. Block height, 885,441. Sats per dollar, 1,163. Market cap, 1.7 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 8.37%. Percentage issued, 94.42%. Decline from all-time high, negative 21.4%. Realized monetary inflation, 0.97%. Lots of ones in the chat. Thanks, Opti. So anyways, what are we going to talk about during the numbers today? Well, take a look at this gentleman right here. Apparently, he's the front runner for the governor of Florida. He's a congressman by the name of Brian Donalds, and he wants Bitcoin on the state's financial portfolio. Let's check out the clip, and then we shall talk about it.
I want to turn Florida into the financial hub of the world. Digital assets has made a home in South Florida. I want to make sure that we become the most business-friendly state in our country, for businesses to incorporate in our state, but then also for the state to take the lead on cryptocurrency and digital assets. I would even consider having crypto be a part.
I mean, oof. And that's already kind of happening already. There's two Florida bills, investment of public funds in Bitcoin. They're in committee. And let's go through state by state, shall we? And this incredible website, whoever put this together, bitcoinlaws.io, shout out to you, bro, or gals, or bros and gals. Seems like Utah is taking the lead. Utah is almost enacted, which would be absolutely historic, ladies and gentlemen. There is almost a strategic Bitcoin reserve in the great state of Utah. Arizona seems to be in second place. Oklahoma seems to be in second place as well, even though they're only in chamber one. Utah, I don't know what's happening in Utah, bro, but you know they're really pushing this forward very, very quickly. And here are all the other states. Unfortunately, the state of Montana, it got shut down. Unfortunately, the state of North Dakota got shut down. And apparently the state of Pennsylvania got shut down. Apparently the state of South Dakota got shut down. Apparently the state of Wyoming, it got shut down as well. But this was to be expected. This is a post by Dennis Porter. Shout out to Dennis Porter of the Satoshi Action Fund. He has really pushed a lot of these initiatives forward. Check out Dennis Porter. Check out the Satoshi Action Fund. I'm personally a big fan, and they've done incredible work on the state level for sure. Also, check out my interview that I did with Dennis Porter and Senator Cynthia Lummis in Washington, D.C., where we talked about the various initiatives on the federal level and on the state level. And Dennis correctly predicted during that interview that he believed that it was going to be the state of Utah that was going to be leading the charge. And it seems like Dennis was right. So if you guys saw that interview, so if you want tomorrow's Bitcoin news today, you guys got to check out Simply Bitcoin's content. Anyways, this is what Dennis said. He said, I've said it many times, but I will say it again. Most Bitcoin bills will fail this year. We went through the same process in 2023 and in 2024. Each year, we helped introduce many bills. Each year, only 2 bills passed into law. This is normal. I've forecasted this for years. I agree, by the way. And also, guys, in politics, and you guys have heard me say this so many effing times, and I'm going to continue to say it over and 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 over again. Overton window, Overton window, Overton window. What is the Overton window? The Overton window is the acceptable window of discourse. And our job as Bitcoiners and as freedom-minded individuals is to move the Overton window. Actually, you know what, Opti, could you pull up the Overton window in the back so we can just pull it up we could share it on screen so I could just show everyone. Okay. And again, this is where we are, guys, okay? We want Bitcoin to become the next global reserve currency. We want Bitcoin to be accepted in mainstream political discourse. We want the ethos of Bitcoin to be accepted in mainstream political discourse. And as you could see, what happened with the election of Donald, just click on the picture, Opti. Thank you. And as you could see with the election of Donald Trump and the election of Nayib Bukele, I'm telling you, as ugly as politics looks, as disorganized, as corrupt, as dysfunctional as it is, and this idea of Bitcoiners that we just don't want politics to matter. We believe in the theory from the sovereign individual, where essentially they predict that information technologies, aka the internet, is essentially going to make politics irrelevant. That is true, but we're still in the transitionary period. And unfortunately, politics still do matter. So, and your vote matters, right? We manage, remember, our community, our industry, our movement was able to get Ross out of prison. All right. We got Ross out of prison. We ended Operation Choke Point 2.0. I'll put it to you this way, guys. They effed with us and we got their candidates thrown out of office, or to use Donald Trump's words, we got them fired. And we're going to be talking about this during the news segment. Now it seems like a lot of Democrats don't even want to talk with Elizabeth Warren because they blame Elizabeth Warren for what happened during the 2024 election. So could you pull that up, Opti, that image? Thank you, bro. So let's talk about this, guys, because this isn't just simply Bitcoin moving the Overton window. This isn't just us, talking heads and us, saying, hey, guys, like, this is Bitcoin. Freedom is good. What is the role of government in society? Why should money steal from you? It comes down to your individual agency. It comes down to your individual action. How do you orange pill the people to the left of you, to the right of you, your friends, your neighbors, your family? And how do you get them to understand that it's not left versus right, it's not conservative versus liberal, it's the money that's broken. If we fix the money, we fix the world, right? So how do we do that? We shift the mother effing Overton window. One of my favorite quotes from Andrew Breitbart, which I take a lot of inspiration from him in this show and all the other shows that he inspired, like Clouder with Crowder, like Steve Bannon's War Room. There's so many that Breitbart inspired. He really started off. You see his videos from like 10, 15 years ago. It's like he was an oracle, man. He predicted so much of this. So Breitbart essentially said that politics is downstream from culture, right? So the way that you win the political game is you win the cultural game, right? And the way that you do that is by shifting the Overton window. So if I told you 5 years ago that Elon Musk was going to team up with Ron Paul to audit the Federal Reserve, you would have literally thought that was unthinkable, right? But look at what has happened in the last 5 years. They went after our industry, and all of a sudden, the very idea of Bitcoin being a strategic reserve was unthinkable. It was radical. Now it's somewhat acceptable. And we're trying to move that to sensible, to popular, and eventually to policy. And that's where I think Utah might actually win this race. So the Overton window is extremely important. And the way that you move it is with every tweet, every video that you make, every person that you convince about Bitcoin. That's how you shift the Overton window. And the Overton window is shifting at a rapid pace. I think it was Lenin that originally quoted this, but it was something along the lines of, and I don't know, I don't agree with Lenin on a lot of his, world viewpoints, but he said, one of his quotes were, there are years where decades happen, and then there are decades that years happen, right? Something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing, but you guys get the general gist of it. We have to move the Overton window, and eventually a lot of these things will become policy. Bitcoin treated as legal tender, it'll become policy. Bitcoin as the world reserve currency, it'll become policy. It won't just become popular, it will become policy, right? So this is our job. And we got a lot of heat over the years. And a lot of people were like in the chat, including Opti, even my own co-host, right? We're like, Nico, why don't you talk about this? Like, Nico, you're holding back, Nico, or whatever. Because you have to move the Overton window. You have to talk about things that are acceptable in the window of discourse, because if you don't talk about things that are not in the acceptable window of discourse, if you talk about things that are unthinkable, right, you run the risk of being othered. You run the risk of just being thrown out or deplatformed or not talked about. So we have to move it ever so slowly so that I could say stuff like, your money shouldn't steal from you. Inflation is theft. There should be a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Bitcoin should be the world reserve currency. Like, so we can openly say those things, and people don't think that we're maniacs when we say those things, right? So yes, we're doing a tremendous amount of, we're making a tremendous amount of progress. I'm so proud of what our movement has accomplished. The fact that we are in the room in Washington, D.C. If you're not in the room, you're not in the deal. We are in the mother effing room. And that's a big win for our industry. So we're definitely making progress. Ross is out of prison. Could you imagine 5 years ago, Mr. President, could you free Ross Ulbricht? That would be unthinkable. And all of a sudden, within a matter of a year and a half of us really grinding, busting our ass, making it a known to President Trump that this was very popular with the Bitcoin movement, therefore it would get him a lot of votes. He was like, all right, I'll free Ross, right? So, you know, this is the power of you. You have the power, but if you choose to stand up and speak and use your voice. Anyways, Opti, what are your thoughts on this, brother?
Well, first of all, when I hear that clip, I might take a more negative view on it. It did seem like he was just kind of saying some buzzwords, but I think the point remains the same. The Overton window has shifted, and as much as we get disgruntled about it, it seems like it's not happening fast enough. It's happening a lot quicker than probably all of us could even imagine. Yes, we want things to move on a lot quicker. Yes, we want to see all these state strategic Bitcoin reserves pass instantly, but that's just, you know, the reality of the situation is that's just not how it works. And so the fact that we are having this conversation, whether you like it or not, I think is a good thing. There has been, and even I personally kind of have taken that stance where the strategic Bitcoin reserve, it was, you know, an exciting topic for a while. I think the narratives around it were really good, but lately I've been kind of feeling a little more bearish about it. I think that it's not the biggest thing for Bitcoin. I have some other views on what might be the biggest thing that would drive Bitcoin adoption, but I think that we are seeing this happen. I do think that Dennis Porter might be right, that it might happen on a state level before it happens on the federal level, and that's just the beauty of America. And so, you know, shouts out to Utah, as someone, I think it was SpongeBob SquarePants in the chat said, Utah has a very short process to get bills put in, hence why they're kind of leading the charge. Personally, little disappointed that the Wyoming bill kind of flopped. It's as you know, we have Senator Lummis. She can't even get it pushed in her own state. Kind of hurts. It kind of makes me feel bearish about it happening on a federal level as well. But as someone that lives in Texas, I'm like, yo, let's get that Texas bill along. Let's make sure that Texas is the financial hub, freedom hub of the world. I don't know. I've been talking about this for a while, but they're creating a Y'all Street in Texas, which is they're trying to rival Wall Street, obviously. So I'd like to see stuff move to Texas. I love Texas. It's a great state, and it's obviously very aligned. But I think the point remains the same. We're starting to see that Bitcoin as a topic, as a mainstream conversational piece, is becoming one of the big topics right now. And anyone that is freedom-minded, or anyone that speaks about freedom either in podcasts or in writing, or considers themselves a freedom advocate, if they aren't talking about Bitcoin, what are you doing? That's probably kind of that defining conversation. There's that line in the sand, like, if they aren't embracing Bitcoin, then really what are they doing? That, like, yeah, you can give some airtime to the words about freedom, but if you aren't embracing freedom money, then it really doesn't mean anything. As we've been saying on the show forever, there's really only one solution here, and is for more people to adopt Bitcoin, to get on the strongest, most decentralized, most permissionless, censorship-resistant network in the world, which is, of course, Bitcoin. But hey, I think it is slowly moving. We're slowly pushing the cultural needle forward, and as this starts to progress, it's really the same old thing, guys. Until the Bitcoin price starts doing something exciting, most people aren't going to talk about Bitcoin. It's only us freaks that talk about Bitcoin every day, that it's the one defining conversation for us. But I think that's going to change soon. And, you know, until then, we'll just be covering other news stories and all this new developments. Nico, I'm starting to feel the same ETF fatigue with the strategic Bitcoin reserve bills. You know, it's like, okay, like, oh, another company is buying ETFs. Okay, another state is adding a bill. Like, when is something concrete going to happen? Honestly, Nico, it seems like a slow start of the year. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like
it reminds me of 2017,
I
dude.
feel like
I'm telling you,
fireworks. I feel like we have more fireworks.
2017 was the same. I don't think you guys understand. It was the same. Like the year started off so slow, and then by the time we got to August, like it was like holy, like oh my god, this is crazy. And the Bitcoin price was pumping and whatever. I'm telling you, I'm feeling that same type of vibe. In 2021, it front run it. Like the cycle happened a lot faster than like anyone was anticipating. Anyways, guys, if you guys are enjoying the show so far, almost 700 of you guys watching live on YouTube. Oh, wow. About to break 700 live on YouTube. Smash that like button. Help us break 300 likes before the end of the show. Of course, shout out to the Rumble audience. It's absolutely popping today. 221 live viewers. Smash that like button, Rumble, and subscribe. And of course, shout out to our loyal X audience as well. 1,412 of you guys watching live as well. So drop a like and consider subscribing. Anyways, I did want to go through some comments before we move on to the next segment, Opti. So Mr. Cellophane says politicians think Bitcoins are suckers. You got played in many such cases. Hey, bro, we got Ross freed
and SAB 121 repealed.
Like, what are you talking about? Like, if everyone thought like you, Ross would still be in prison. So, like, I'm telling you, like this whole like I'm too good for politics, therefore. Whatever, if you have that mindset, if everyone has that mindset, Ross would still be in prison. Operation Choke Point 2.0 would still be happening if everyone thought like you. So even if I got played as a fool by President Trump and he just promised us, hey, I'm going to free Ross, and then he didn't free Ross. Even if I got played as a fool, at least I know I could sleep soundly at night because I had the moral courage to fight to achieve what we want to achieve. And that's what it's going to take. It's going to require moral courage with the thought of knowing that you could fail in order for us to win this peaceful Bitcoin revolution. So yeah, we got Ross freed because we believed, because we tried, because we put in the effort. But if you have this defeatist attitude of like, hey, politicians are playing, listen, politicians, the whole point, they're going to tell you exactly what you want to hear because that's how it works. That's the whole gig. They have to pander to you. That's how they get elected. But eventually, they're going to end up doing what you want them to do because their incentives align with yours. We know that the vice president owns Bitcoin. We know that RFK owns Bitcoin. We know that Tulsi owns Bitcoin. They've all spoken at the Bitcoin conference. We know that Trump owns Bitcoin. They're human beings. What do you think? Their incentives are to pump their bags. Like no one's better than their incentives. So like every time I see that type of attitude, like I'm going to call it out. I'm going to call it out because it's a defeatist attitude. And we are now in the room. We are now in the room in DC. We are now in the negotiating table and it's going to get ugly. It's going to get nasty, but this is how we win, one step at a time. All right, everybody.
Hey, wait, Nico, before you go, we just did get a super chat by John, $10 and he says, Bitcoin is about proof of work. Hold Trump to prove his work.
Exactly. 100%. All right, everybody, we'll be right back. We're going to hit the news. We're going to talk about Elizabeth Warren. We'll be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Casa. Bitcoin security matters, but managing private keys can sometimes be complicated, especially multi-sig. What if you can secure your Bitcoin without worrying about losing a seed phrase or giving up custody? With Casa, you can completely control your Bitcoin with multi-key security, so even if one key is lost or stolen, your funds stay safe. No single point of failure, no stress. That's what I absolutely love about these guys. They make taking Bitcoin into self-custody incredibly easy with their best in industry user experience through their app. I've been personally recommending Casa for years now to my friends and family because they will get all the benefits of multi-key self-custody security without the hassle of having to learn complicated UI. And if you're thinking of one day passing on your Bitcoin to the next generation, their inheritance plan has you covered. Also, if you're a business looking to add Bitcoin to your treasury, do it the secure way with Casa for Business. To get started, go to casa.io today and get 5% off Casa Standard or Casa Premium with promo code SIMPLY. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US, and it integrates seamlessly with their free app called Envoy. Passport is fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a classic feature phone, so you'll know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. It's also air-gapped, meaning Bitcoin stays offline, never touching an internet connection. It's Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, air-gap security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes with Passport at foundation.xyz/simply. Get peace of mind for your piece of Bitcoin.
All right, everybody, we are back. Before we jump into the news, guys, I do want to give a shout out to the super chats. Ron P, appreciate the $21, man. Thank you so much, Ron P. Appreciate it. Jamesito, the $19.99, appreciate it, bro. Tell him, Nico and Opti. Thank you, Jamesito. Appreciate the support. And one we got from Zhang, $10. Bitcoin is about proof of work. Hold Trump to prove his work. So appreciate the super chats. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. Guys, this show would not be possible without you guys. We get this question all the time. How could you support the show? We'll send us super chats, or you could check out all of our amazing sponsors. Anyways, let's jump straight into the show, ladies and gentlemen. Straight into the news article we're going to cover today by Politico. So Politico was discovered by Doge, Elon Musk's initiative in the federal government, that Politico was actually receiving funding from the U.S. government. Now, isn't it interesting that as soon as that's discovered, there's an article that's basically saying, "Hey, you know what? Elizabeth Warren isn't that popular." It's almost as if, you know, all that opposition. Man, Opti, should I just rip it?
I don't even know where you're going, but yes.
It might be out of the Overton window, but should I just? No, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it.
Boo, hold on.
I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it.
Wait. Where's my fail? Where's my fail sound here, dude?
I'll put it to you this way. It's almost as if all this media press and coverage regarding a lot of these world events that were pro-freedom, it's almost as if a lot of that was fake. It's almost as if a lot of that was funded by the government itself. There you go. See, Opti, there's ways to say things. Anyways, a new crypto clash looms for Elizabeth Warren. What a great title. Democrats are barreling towards a new clash over cryptocurrency policy that could pit a growing cadre of industry-friendly lawmakers in the party against the left's loudest voice on financial policy, Senator Elizabeth Warren. Pro-crypto lawmakers are moving quickly to advance long-sought legislation that would give new legitimacy to the digital asset sector, part of a Republican-led push on President Donald Trump's pledge to turn the United States into the, quote, crypto capital of the planet. To make it happen, they're scrambling to get enough Democrats on board with industry-backed legislation to clear the Senate. Some on the left are already signing on, and it's setting up a potential rift between crypto-friendly Democrats and Warren just months into the Massachusetts lawmaker's tenure as the party's new leader on the powerful Senate Banking Committee. Isn't that badass? So it's like Senator Lummis versus Senator Warren. Isn't that spicy? There's a number of Democratic senators who do want to get involved in this space. Senator Gillibrand, a pro-crypto New York Democrat who has helped write GOP-led digital asset legislation, is quarterbacking the efforts to get other members of her party on board. The push comes as part of a broad shift in Washington policymaking towards regulatory changes that could benefit the crypto sector. The industry, long dogged by scandals and concerns about financial fraud, is now being embraced by lawmakers and regulators who are eyeing changes that could help legitimize its $3 trillion market. The turn has been driven in part by a massive political spending spree by top crypto firms and executives who have dumped hundreds of millions of dollars into influence campaigns designed to take down critics and boost industry allies. The effort to attract more bipartisan support illustrates how Democrats hold the keys to passing the crypto legislation the GOP have pledged, which will require 60 votes to pass the Senate, where Republicans hold a narrow majority of 53 seats. It could become one of the few spaces for bipartisan deal-making in a bitterly divided Congress. Washington's pro-crypto shift is primarily being driven by Republicans who have broadly embraced the sector, but a growing number of Democrats appear eager to get on board. The embrace comes despite concerns from skeptics like Warren, who have been a leading critic of the digital asset sector. Quote, I have a very different experience with crypto and understanding of how it fits into our economy. Senator Ruben Gallego of Arizona said in an interview last month of his differences with Warren. And it makes sense. Why? Because Arizona is a swing state. So, of course, it makes sense, right? Massachusetts is a heavily blue state. It's not a swing state. Gallego voted as a member of the House last year for an industry-backed crypto bill that Warren opposed. He said last month that he is going to vote to represent what I think Arizona actually thinks about crypto and how it fits into the economy. It's all coming together to present a major early test for how Warren, who has clashed fiercely with moderate Democrats in the past over financial regulation issues, will handle differences with others in her party in her new role as its leader on the committee overseeing Wall Street and crypto. She has warned that the digital assets present risks to consumers and called for the industry to be subjected to tougher anti-money laundering standards. You know what's a risk to consumers? Inflation, Senator Warren. Inflation is a bigger risk to the lower and middle classes of the United States than whatever BS you're trying to conjure up. Anyways, that's my thought. I believe that Democrats understand the importance of consumer protection. If you want consumer protection, you should be worried about inflation. You should be worried about how the average Joe, the average everyday person, could just, not get ravaged every time the government decides to go on a spending spree. That's my thought on that. That's not fair. It's just like it's wordsmithing. Anyways, smash the like button. We're about to break 300 likes on YouTube. Appreciate the support, everybody. Quote, I believe that Democrats understand the importance of consumer protections and anti-money laundering curbs in a new financial product, Warren told reporters last week in response to questions for this story. Quote, all we're looking for is a level playing field between crypto and all the other financial systems. So I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it there. That you didn't have a level playing field last year. That's BS. That wasn't a level playing field. The industry was targeted. Specific Americans were debanked because of their political viewpoints. This was even happening in Canada with the truckers' protest. That's not a level playing field at all. That's the exact opposite of a level playing field. No, you guys are projecting onto us what it is you're guilty of themselves. You don't want a level playing field. You want a monopoly so you can roll out a central bank digital currency. That is what Senator Warren wants. That is what Senator Warren wants. Unfortunately, she won re-election, but in 6 years, if you live in Massachusetts, this is your representative. This is what she's saying. This is what she wants. Anyhow, so let's move on to the River Report, which kind of breaks down they did such a great job. It breaks down the changes, right? So U.S. Congress is pro-Bitcoin, gaining 15 seats in the 2024 election. After the November 2024 election, the majority of both the House and the Senate are now pro-Bitcoin. based on public statements and political activity, as defined by an advocacy group Stand With Crypto. In January of 2025, a Senate panel on digital assets was established with two focus areas. Number one, pass legislation for responsible innovation and consumer protection, covering market structure, stablecoins, and strategic Bitcoin reserve. Number two, regulatory oversight to prevent overreach. And as you guys could see, what the houses are divided, where it's at. I mean, a vast majority in the House, kind of slim majority in the Senate, 59 Senate seats, almost filibuster proof, and a big majority in the House, and including Democrats, which is super, super awesome. And of course, I mean, are they counting the vice president's vote in the Senate? I don't know. But anyways, this is pretty awesome. Like, we're making progress. Remember what I told you guys about the Overton window? Like, we're moving that mother effing Overton window. We have to elect Elizabeth Warren out of office. Like, full stop. I don't know how else to say it. I don't know how else to put it. I don't know how else to phrase it. We have to elect everybody that is anti-Bitcoin out of office in the United States. Because if you're anti-Bitcoin, like, you're pro-fiat, and if you're pro-fiat, you're pro-theft. So the way I see it, simple as that. So we have to do it democratically. We have to do it legally. And by the way, this isn't just the US. This is in Canada. This is worldwide. Like, this is how you win. You want Bitcoin to become the global reserve currency. You want to end central banking. This is how you do it. It's an ugly, messy process where morals go out the window. Like, that's how it is. But we are making progress, and we are in the room. So, and I think we'll continue to grow in influence as an industry as number goes up. And I think as Bitcoiners become more and more influential. We just broke 300 likes in the YouTube, the YouTube live stream. Let's raise that goal. Help us break 400 likes by the time the show ends. Opti, I mean, this is great, bro. We have a majority of the House, including Democrats, are pro Bitcoin, and majority of the Senate seems like they're pro Bitcoin as well. And that's absolutely awesome. Anyways, Opti is buying right now. Apparently someone in the chat is saying that. Opti, what's your take on this, bro? It seems like we're winning, dude. We're making progress. I remember this time last year, me and you were having serious conversations about moving to El Salvador.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great development, as Bitcoiners have been covering on Twitter, as we've been covering on the show. The Dems kind of signed, their own failure when they aligned themselves with Elizabeth Warren. And now I know she got reelected, which is not a good thing. I know she's heading, the Dem committee. And anyone following what Elizabeth Warren is doing is completely detached from reality. I've been speculating for a while. It's like, okay, if you look at the number, and actually, I started speculating on this for a while, and then we kind of got the data behind it. It's like, who are the people backing Elizabeth Warren? Well, it's interesting. She started her political career on this idea of Occupy Wall Street, etc. And it turns out like she's a shill for the very people that she supposedly was standing up against. And now we're starting to see that there are some Democrats that are waking up to the writing on the wall, that if you fight Bitcoin, you are not going to maintain your position of power. And so I love to see this development. I think, as we always say on the show, Bitcoin is apolitical. It is for anyone. And hey, if you want to fight Bitcoin, you're not going to withstand that battle. Bitcoin is bigger than any one side of the political aisle. I would say Bitcoin is bigger than politics in general, hence why it is so political. So I love seeing headlines like this, even though you guys probably know I'm not the biggest fan of a lot of stuff coming out from the left party. But hey, if they're starting to abandon Elizabeth Warren's stance and their anti-crypto army, this is obviously a good thing for the conversation around Bitcoin. This is obviously a good thing for all the constituents around there, as we try to say every single day. And we do get you guys throwing tomatoes at us. Like, Bitcoin is bipartisan. It isn't just for one people. It's for anyone that is interested in freedom money, anyone that is interested in protecting their purchasing power and saving in something that is designed to go up forever, it's going to be very easy for them to become Bitcoiners. So, hey, if we see more and more people capitulate and abandon Elizabeth Warren's stance on Bitcoin, this is a good thing for everyone. So I hope that this accelerates. And personally, I'm not in Massachusetts, so I'm just a talking head here, but I would love to see Elizabeth Warren no longer be in the position she is. I don't know how anyone listens to her and think she's saying anything worthy of value or worthy of being listened to. I hear her and it's just like, I don't even know if I can say it because we're on YouTube, but she sounds like a very concerned senior citizen, and I don't want to listen to her.
Yeah, I mean, look,
say it nicely.
I respect. She has a difference of opinion, and she's totally entitled to have a difference of opinion. This is a free country. I just think that her difference of opinion is actively hurting the well-being of Americans, and specifically the constituents that she supposedly represents, because she supposedly represents the lower middle classes. That's what she's all about. That's her shtick. And being anti-Bitcoin, it's like forcing those people that get hurt the most by inflation to use a currency that is actively hurting them, right? Like, and maybe she believes, look, would you change your mind if you were that age and you truly believe that what you were doing was helping people and you were getting paid for doing that and you made a fortune by doing that? Like, would you change your opinion if some younglings came in and they're like, hey guys, we fixed the money? No, you wouldn't believe us either. So I understand, Elizabeth Warren. I just fundamentally disagree with you. And hopefully enough people in Massachusetts wake up next Senate election and vote her out of office. Anyways, guys, we're going to hit the culture. We have tons to talk about today. Opti, could you give us a quick refresher? I believe it's Jeff Bezos, seeing the light a little bit, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, as we've covered in the last couple of weeks, a lot of the corporate press, they've been seemingly shifting towards, I guess you could say, for lack of better terms, towards the right and away from the Dem Party, as we're seeing with the politicians around Elizabeth Warren. And hey, you may or may not like Bezos. He may be an oligarch, but if his Washington Post owned newspaper is going to start freedom posting, I don't know. I think I'm kind of backing this. So we'll talk about all that.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we will be right back. We're going to hit the culture segment. We have so much to get to. Smash the like button if you guys are enjoying the show. We will be right back. Culture.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, HIVE Digital Technologies. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's been battle tested through every possible market. And as the first with an AI strategy, HIVE continues to redefine the future of sustainable energy. Also, gotta casually drop this in here, HIVE consistently tops the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're changing the game. Learn more by following them at HIVE Digital Tech or check out their website, hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a very special shout out to our sponsor, Compass Mining. They make Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone, from beginners to experienced investors. Their turnkey miners gets you online and hashing within 48 hours, making it easier than ever to start your mining journey. Plus, with their active marketplace, you can resell your miner at any time, adding flexibility and value to your investment. Visit their website to access a wealth of resources, learning everything you need to know about Bitcoin mining. Take your first step into the world of Bitcoin mining with confidence. Discover more at compassmining.io. Again, compassmining.io, and see how Compass Mining can power your success.
All right, we are back.
Wow.
Ladies.
The chat just mentioned the price, and dude, this is what I love being a Bitcoin podcaster. Anyways. All right. As I've been talking, actually, as the theme of the show is today, there seems to be a general vibe shift, and I kind of was trolling earlier, and we'll do it now. Maybe did we do a poll already? We already have a poll. So the general shift or consensus in the chat, we'll have to redo it. One was, is there actual vibe shift towards freedom, or is this a manufactured consent towards freedom? It was a 1 and a 2. It seemed like more of the chat was saying 1. I didn't get everyone in the chat to respond, but it seems like they think there's an actual vibe shift towards freedom and freedom consciousness, which I would like to believe. Maybe it's just I'm a skeptical person by nature. Anyways, we got this post from Jeff Bezos this morning. And if you aren't familiar with this, and maybe you've been sleeping under a rock, Jeff Bezos doesn't just own Amazon, he also owns Washington Post. And as we've been covering for a long time, and even when we kind of heard this news story in the beginning, I think it was towards the end of last year, you know, a lot of people were wondering, like, how come a billionaire owns a newspaper company? Isn't that dying medium? Well, as everyone knows, you know, they got to get their thoughts out there. And now we're seeing that Bezos seems to be capitulating on some of the long-held beliefs that he's had. And he's not the only one out there. We've also seen Elon Musk. We've seen Zuck. And obviously, as I've been saying, I've been a little skeptical about it. You know, my tinfoil hat's on. It makes me feel a little weird when the billionaire oligarchs are kind of saying the same things that I'm saying. It makes me kind of, you know, not only kind of look at my fundamentals and my first principles, but wondering whether they are just throwing red meat out there for the audience. Because, hey, if Zuck is seeing some data behind the scenes, you know, that's probably why he's changing his opinion. Anyways, enough conspiracy theories from my end. This is Jeff Bezos' words this morning, and I do have a few Bitcoiner posts regarding this. So Bezos this morning goes, I shared this note with the Washington Post team this morning. I'm writing to let you know about a change coming to our opinion pages. We're going to be writing every day in support and defense of 2 pillars, personal liberties and free markets. We'll cover other topics too, of course, but viewpoints opposing those pillars will be left to be published by others. There was a time when a newspaper, especially one that was a local monopoly, might have seen it as a service to bring to the reader's doorstep every morning a broad-based opinion section that sought to cover all views. Today, the internet does that job. I am of America and for America and proud to be so. Our country did not get here by being typical, and a big part of America's success has been freedom in the economic realm and everywhere else. Freedom is ethical. It minimizes coercion and practical. It drives creativity, invention, and prosperity. I offered David Shipley, whom I greatly admire, the opportunity to lead this new chapter. I suggested to him that if the answer wasn't hell yes, then it had to be a no. After careful consideration, David decided to step away. This is a significant shift. It won't be easy, and it will require 100% commitment. I respect his decision. We'll be searching for a new opinion editor to own this new direction. And I'm confident that free markets and personal liberties are right for America. I also believe these viewpoints are underserved in the current market of ideas and news opinion. I'm excited for us together to fill that void, Jeff Bezos. Honestly, on the surface, it sounds like a lot of the things we've been saying on the show. Obviously, as you guys know, if you're a longtime listener, we are all for personal liberty and freedom and economic freedom and free markets, etc. And of course, this is why we're Bitcoiners. And we got a response from Sailor, one of them being, Bitcoin is the best way to promote personal liberties and free markets. It offers an open protocol for prosperity that can be delivered to everyone via digital technology. And the other one I want to highlight is, of course, Safety Amos, and he goes, if you like free markets, you're going to love Bitcoin, which finally brought the free market to the biggest market of all, money. Pick up a copy of the Bitcoin Standard on Amazon. So I find it very interesting that we are actually seeing Jeff Bezos say things like this. You know, they're going to push 2 pillars, freedom or personal liberties and free markets. And of course, as we say every single day, and as Sailor and Safety responded, Bitcoin is the truly only free market of money. So it is very interesting to kind of hear this conversation happen, whether we will get more Bitcoin freedom-esque takes from the Washington Post. It seems like everyone wants to freedom post now. It seems like that is where the culture is headed. It seems to be a vibe shift going towards personal liberty, towards freedom, towards free markets. And hey, obviously I'm here for it. And just my main concern here is this a an authentic shift towards the right? Did they actually have this epiphany and hallelujah moment and coming back to reality? Or is there some form of manufactured consent? Because as you can tell, there is this populist uprising right now, and maybe they're trying to do some damage control here. So that's my kind of takes on this idea. But on its surface, it's hard to hate on this. I fully endorse this kind of conversation. And the second part that is interesting is that he basically said, hey, if you want to fight those ideas, we're going to let other publications post that. So who are the other publications, like Bloomberg, Fiat Times, everyone else? So, hey, if this is a bastion of freedom, personal liberties, and free markets, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more Bitcoin posts come out of the Washington Post. And as everyone's been wondering, it's like, when are we going to be able to buy some stuff on Amazon with our Bitcoin, Bezos? Come on, like push the charge, bro. But hey, it looks like the Bitcoin standard idea is catching on, or at least the idea of liberty and free markets is catching on. And so we'll be covering this general trend. I know some people aren't as skeptical as I am, and they're like, no, there is a vibe shift going on, the pendulum swinging. There's some people in the chat that kind of agree with me that it does seem a little manufactured. Maybe we don't believe in this epiphany moment, but hey, this is where we are in the story right now. They are actively doing some cover and narrative control, damage control, and moving towards a lot of the stuff that we say here on Simply Bitcoin. So Nico, maybe we really are, tomorrow's news today or whatever the meme is, because we seem as Bitcoiners to work off first principles, fundamentals, and it seems like things are shifting in our direction. So hopeful about this, not going to hold my breath, but I think this is an interesting development.
Yeah, and I think that was an amazing analysis, brother. And what I'll say is, like, I think we have to be careful when we say about right and left. I think what we really have to focus on is individualism versus collectivism, right? And Bitcoin is not compatible with collectivist thought. It's a very individualist technology. And there's collectivism on the right and there's collectivism on the left. I think what we're seeing recently, this political movement, this populism political movement, is a movement based on merit. It's a movement based on individual freedoms. It's a movement based on free markets. And I think Jeff Bezos, like Mark Zuckerberg, like Joe Rogan, I think they saw the winds change. The only credit I'll give due is Elon. Like Elon, and I know Opti's not a big fan, but Elon risked his company. He really went all in. If Kamala would have won, it would not have been good for Elon. So Elon really, went all in. And then when it became apparent and clear that Trump was the leading candidate, then Jeff Bezos jumped in, then Zuckerberg jumped in, and then, Joe Rogan, Joe Rogan should have had Trump on the podcast in the beginning of the year. He waited until the last minute because he realized how unpopular it was with his audience that he didn't have Trump on the show. So, what I was saying earlier on is, guys, if we want to win this, it's going to require moral courage, right? And these guys aren't dumb. Jeff Bezos isn't stupid. Mark Zuckerberg isn't stupid. Joe Rogan isn't stupid. And I'm just naming a few. If they see the winds of the culture changing, they're not going to fight against those winds, right? They want to get in their good graces. But I don't know if you guys saw this, but it's been making the rounds on X. But essentially, apparently with the new iPhone update, if you speak into your phone and you say,
I saw that. If
you say the word racist, it for 1 or 2 seconds it says Trump instead. And it's the reason that's interesting to me is because Apple or Tim Cook donated $1 million to Trump's inauguration fund. So I don't think any of these guys have changed. Maybe Joe, I think Joe really actually has changed, but I don't think any of these Silicon Valley guys have really changed their ideologies. I just think that it's better to be in the good graces of the president, who basically has all of government, has the House, has the Senate, has the Supreme Court, and survived 2 assassination attempts, survived all this lawfare. I mean, his presidential picture is the same of his mugshot. The dude is pissed off, okay? So it's better to be in his good graces than be against him, right? So I think a lot of the motivations behind Jeff Bezos changing his tune come from that, rather than him actually realizing, you know what, it's actually good to be a freedom-minded country and all that stuff. Because not too long ago, I mean, Facebook was terrible. Like, they were censoring people left and right. And then all of a sudden, when it became clear that, Trump was going to win, Zuck got like all pumped and he started doing martial arts, and he went on Joe Rogan. He's like, you know what? They're just pressuring us so much and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, they were pressuring Elon too. And Elon didn't give an F, right? Moral courage is the word here. And if we really want to win over the next 5-10 years, if you want the world that your children live in to be a world of Bitcoin, a world of freedom, it's going to require moral courage to stand up and do the right thing in the face of tyranny, in the face of potential prison, right? Are you going to stand up and do what's right, even if there's consequences to you, right? I have a very good friend of mine, BTZ Sessions. Like, he was involved with the whole Canadian truckers protest. He ran one of the nodes that they ran the Lightning channel on that facilitated a lot of these truckers protests, people going and giving donations. The law enforcement in Canada showed up at his house. The dude has a family, right? But he stood up and did what's right. And this is like a theme of today's show, I guess. Stand up and do what's right. Do the right thing. That's how we're going to win. If enough of us stand up and say, yo, enough is enough, fiat is a scam, like central banking is like has enslaved humanity, and we don't want any of it. Like, enough is enough. You guys have to answer. You guys have to actually do what's good by the American people. I think that's how we're going to win. I really believe that. But this whole, oh my God, like, don't trust Trump, or don't trust this politician, or don't trust, like, that's weak, man. I'm telling you, that's weak. That's so easy to say that. That's so easy. It is so much easier to say that than to actually fight and to actually, put your support behind someone. Even if that someone's going to F you over, at least you tried. At least you're putting in an effort. Because I'll tell you what, if we don't put any effort at all, I guarantee you we're going to lose. If we put effort, I can't say guarantee we're going to win, but at least we have a shot at winning, right? So this whole defeatist attitude and whatever, I get it. Maybe I get it. If we were in the gold bug era, right? If we were in the pre-internet era, I get it. But now that we have the ability to speak freely with each other, now that we have the ability to save in money that can't be debased, is very difficult to confiscate. It's unconfiscatable, like Tone Vase says it. We have no reason. You have no reason as to not why to stand up and, fight for becoming a sovereign individual. There's no reason at all as to why you shouldn't be able to stand up and want to do that. So that's my bit. And we are getting to the top of the show. Guys, we love you all. We appreciate it. Thank you so much for the super chats. Thank you so much for the views. Rumble is popping off, 333 live viewers. Shout out to the YouTube audience, peaked at 700 today, 562 live viewers currently. We're 2 likes away from 350 likes, so smash the like button if you're watching us on YouTube. We appreciate it. Of course, shout out to our X audience as well, holding strong, 1,902 live viewers. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys. We couldn't be here without you. Check out our sponsors, our partners. If you want to support the show, that's how we stay on the air. Appreciate all the super chats. Guys, we love you. Thank you so much. Smash the like button. Consider subscribing, and we'll see you tomorrow for the Thursday episode of Simply Bitcoin Live.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.